Hey, what's going on, my YouTube family? Welcome back, everybody. Here I am, that wood guy. And if you're new to the channel, this is going to be probably your first video because you're new to the channel. But if you've been following me along all this time, again, I appreciate you guys and I appreciate all your patience. And I think maybe I'll have something nailed down as a scheduled upload time. But I also have it's a little bit of a change coming. So we're going to be posting a lot of woodworking here. I got a lot to share. And of course, I'll pop in firewood here and there. But for now, it's going to be a lot of woodworking because I have a lot to share with you guys that I think it's been a hidden talent and maybe something else that will inspire others to maybe get into. Or maybe you've already been into it and you're just now knowing that I'm into it. So I'm excited to share this part with you guys. And this is the entrance to my wood shop. As you enter down the set of stairs, I have all old tools that I've been collecting so far, and my original old name, my initials, and my first woodworking when I was getting established, and then I came up with my actual official business name being That Wood Guy. So I have to make a new That Wood Guy sign, but I've kept it for this long because it's almost like a memory in its way of just starting out. And I think everything like that is important to remember when you're just starting out in any sort of endeavor or in any direction you go. So these are all my old tools, and this is the entrance down into the basement and where we're going to go into the wood shop. And obviously I have a lot more space to be able to add, so I'm interested in old hand tools and old tools. Come down into a warm, cozy environment that is hard to resist in the nasty time of year, especially in upstate New York. That Wood Guy's custom wood shop that I'm excited to share with you guys. So letting your eyes kind of hone in on things, the shop is 22 feet wide by 38 feet long, and I have about 90 inches to the bottom of the studs to my ceiling, which is an advantage but also a disadvantage at times. The advantage is that I can store things and reach things easily, which makes it really convenient in a small space. But the disadvantage is when I'm working with larger boards and or materials and building larger pieces of furniture, it can be a disadvantage just because it's inconvenient because of the height. It can be a disadvantage for me having that lack of headspace, not being able to swing boards around, not being able to assemble a whole piece of furniture, and it makes it a little inconvenient, but I will tell you it's been cozy. And if the ceiling height isn't enough to get me, it's this door here, entering and exiting, that I need to build something in pieces or make note that I can get it out the door before I build it down in the shop. Shop's been a project of me and my dad for 17, 18 years, and I'm proud to be able to now share it with you guys and be able to holster that memory on forever. Let's start here at the miter saw station. So this is my custom miter saw station. Holsters two 12-inch Bosch sliding miter saws that I have a rough blade on one and I have a finished blade on the other. That's why there's two of them there. And I'm still working in progress of working on my finished dust collection around the miter saws because miter saws are such a tenacious beast to capture the dust off of. But the cabinet here is level with the top of the surfaces with the miter saws, and these fences are also built to be adjustable over time as things change to be able to always give me a perfect guide in the back of the miter saws. And everything's built out of plywood and maple for stability and strength. Threaded inserts for bolts anywhere that a bolt is tying something down, such as these fences and my miter saw. And then you can't have enough drawer storage, so I put any sort of drawers and any sort of negative space I could around this whole cavity of this miter saw station, and also cabinets that holster tools that I can't keep on my benches permanently because of the lack of space, such as my little CNC machine here, my Kreg jigs, and some other miscellaneous dovetail jigs, tool belts, nail guns, stuff that I know where it is and safely stored in there. But again, you can't have enough drawer storage, and I kind of utilize the drawers and certain equipment that is near the drawers, such as the milling machine that has tons of cutters, spacing blocks for clamps, and that's right next to the miter saw for me to be able to grab them drawers and use what I have to use for the milling machine. So This is by far a drill press. If anybody in their mind is thinking that it's just a large drill press, drilling is just something it does. Machining is its home. And I use it for wood a lot because for jigs and fixtures, and the accuracy of a milling machine down in a wood shop is just so superior opposed to a router, a table saw, bandsaws, anything woodworking related, to be honest with you. And I bought this machine brand new from Grizzly. You see a lot of Grizzly equipment down here, and I've just been super pleased with it. I don't support overseas stuff, but it's the matter of owning one or not. Even a used American piece of equipment like this would just be astronomical, but the difference in accuracy would be astronomical as well. But I'm machining wood, I'm not machining steel, so it works fine for what I do, and you guys will see it in many videos of me using it for many operations, drilling holes, machining little pockets, making inlay work, any sort of even fixing for my personal equipment out in the firewood yard has been a savings grace. Here's my dust collector, where, as you see, is hooked up to 6-inch Schedule 40 and has a ground wire running through all of it for static shock and explosion, but I went with 6-inch Schedule 40 for the noise. It's very quiet and sound dampening, and it's also a tight system. Every machine is hooked up to it, and for the most part, they all are very, very works. It works really nice, but I'm also, I guess I'm updating dust collection in certain areas that is I've either changed a piece of equipment and moved it into a different area, or I didn't like the way the dust collection was working, so I'm kind of updating certain tools in certain aspects. But for the most part, all the big tools are all hooked up. The bandsaw, you know, my lathe has dust collection, the planer, the joiner, and so on and so forth. So it works out great. And as you continue down the south side of the shop here, this is my grinder station where I sharpen all my hand tools for the lathe. You can see I got a small project I'm working on there right now. I like to work on the lathe because it's kind of like an instant gratification where I'm able to bring something down in the morning and maybe by lunch it's a finished project. But again, I've set up my grinder next to it to be able to sharpen my tools, which I need for the lathe, and you're sharpening pretty consistently throughout when you're turning a project because wood just dulls tools so fast. So carry on down the shop here. This is my big drill press, and it comes into play when I just need to drill holes. But I have two drill presses in here, one big one, which is this one, and another small one, which I'll show you guys. And sometimes if I have one or the other set up with a certain operation, or even the milling machine that can drill holes, if it's set up with a certain operation and I need to do something else, it's great to have another tool to be able to complete what you're trying to do at task. So I acquired this again from Grizzly, and again, you're going to see a lot of Grizzly tools. And I built this cabinet underneath it because, again, it's wasted storage and you can't have enough drawers in these spots. And I've also built this because it's a big drill press. This table raises and lowers quite a bit. I built this cabinet to be able to slide out of the way and unlock it and get it out of the way if I need to put the table down. I have these little locks here, and this whole thing slides out, which is really kind of cool because now I can lower my table to use the big drill press. But this wasted space doesn't get wasted around here, this part of the shop. Then it gets locked right back into place. My big bandsaw consists of 5-horse motor, and I use it a lot for ripping material down to width. You guys will see in videos. This machine is a 17-inch bandsaw, and again, it's been a great machine to have. And I built a custom table on the outfeed to be able to keep things nice and flush and flat. It gives me nice support for when I'm ripping long boards. And I also have just drawers, drawers, drawers. Can't have enough storage. And again, the drawers are holstering stuff that is close to it. Maybe, you know, such as lathe accessory, where I'll have some of my lathe stuff down in there that I need. And it's right near the wood lathe for me to be able to always access and be able to get at. These chests of drawers here are very special to me. They're actually built by my grandfather. They holster all of my father's trade tools from his tool and die trade, and it's extremely special to me because now they're down in the wood shop and they come in extremely handy. And these drawers were built out of a plywood, 3/8. And if you look at the plywood, the veneers are so thick, we don't even can get plywood like this nowadays. It's just a very high quality plywood that you can't find nowadays, it seems. But these drawers have been, I don't know, they're probably 40 years or more old, and they've held up so nice throughout the years because they were well made by a craftsman such as my grandfather, and now that craftsmanship spreads out to me, his grandson. Honestly, I don't know. I would say I don't even build drawers this nice. These are just remarkable pieces of furniture and remarkable drawers that I know a lot of tool makers would spend a lot of money to be able to invest in a good solid hardwood drawers that, you know, can withstand the weight, because these things weigh a ton, guys. And if you see the stand that holds them underneath it, so I built this maple chest to be able to hold these tool chests above it, but again, underneath it would have been wasted space, and now I can utilize it with all sorts of drawer storage. And it's got this beautiful figured maple, and it's all built out of solid 1-inch maple, so it's super strong. The legs are about 3.5 by 2. Again, this thing isn't going anywhere. I come across this stuff at a really good deal, and I had it laying around in my shop for years, and I didn't have custom projects going out, so I ended up using it for my own sake, and I'm glad I did, because now I get to stare at it and appreciate it. Who doesn't have a pencil sharpener down in the wood shop? But I wonder who does have a pencil drawer that stretches out all the way. Cavity is going to go wasted space down here, so I put in a pencil drawer, which again holsters all my pencils. This is my miniature Bernie table saw that I use for miniature furniture and or model making. This little saw works out great for when you're cutting small parts. I don't like doing that on a bigger table saw, and I built it into the outfeed of my big bandsaw, as you guys seen earlier. And I had to build it to raise and lower a level like you just seen, because this fence is not as easily removable on this little saw, and this would stick up above the surface and interfere if I was trying to slide any sort of material from the bandsaw. It would catch on this, so it wouldn't work out. So I built this saw to be able to raise and lower out of the way with convenience and storage, and it all stays flush on the outfeed of my big bandsaw, so that I can continue to use the big bandsaw for what it is. It's got the most cutest little 4-inch blade. It produces probably like a 1/16 kerf. It's super handy for cutting tiny little small parts. If I'm cutting tiny little thin strips, tiny little bands, it works out great than using a bigger table saw or a bandsaw, because the bandsaw doesn't give me a finished edge opposed to this little table saw that'll give me a finished edge. But again, this little guy was a custom build that I designed and built to holster just this saw. It has its own little outfeed table right here to carry everything flush on the outfeed. So it's really nice to when I'm even ripping longer little small stock, that now I've got the outfeed for the bandsaw, and the bandsaw has this outfeed table to be able to just, you know, support all the material that I'm trying to run through the bandsaw. And all this negative space, again, would be just wasted if you didn't put in drawers. And it's all storage that I have here for my little Bernie table saw, all sorts of accessories that I'll be using for the saw, I store right underneath it, and or small parts that maybe I need for clamping to, you know, not mar my wood, I store right here. And if you notice over on the right side of the saw, I've built these two drawers more narrow in depth than the remaining two on the left side here, because if you take this table saw out, you look right over here where this hole is, this is connected to my dust collection, which is connected to this dust collection on the little Bernie saw. So this all lines up nice when you slide this saw back into place. So as you can see here, this will line right up with my dust collection when I slide that in place. And then I've got dust collection hooked up on that saw. Already for getting things down in my own shop, as simple as this little cabinet down on the wall that has all my drill bits in it next to the milling machine. Drill presses are close enough to be able to grab the drills that I need and walk to the drill press, but it's more in use next to the milling machine because this little area is out of the way opposed to next to the drill presses that has a little more stuff near them. I did also want to point out how the whole perimeter of the shop has pegboard, 4x8 sheets, and continuously through the whole shop with 2 inches of foam behind it. And it works out really nice for when I'm trying to relocate a shelf, or even any of this stuff hanging on the wall you see down here to the left. The foam gives me the adjustability to be able to stick nails in for different size items that I need to store on the wall close to maybe a tool that I'm using. So the nails would never work in just plain pegboard with, you know, no support behind it, but the 2 inches of foam behind the pegboard is a really unique storage idea. So continuing from behind the bandsaw, we come down to my long bench here, which is about 35 feet long, and it has a lot of stuff on it right now. This is more of Dad's end, where he works on some of his projects and cleans some of his guns. But we have tools all on the walls with nails that you can see, and that is all adjustable, and it could always change because, again, the 2 inches of foam behind the pegboard gives me all this adjustability that have hooks on the back that unclip from the pegboard here, and they can all be readjusted again if I need to change something in the future. I have an electrical strip running the whole bench with outlets every 16 inches. And if you look around this shop real close, I have outlets everywhere. There's never a lack of power outlet to be able to hook something in, plug something in. And that is certainly a fetish of mine, having to run an extension cord down in my wood shop. When I'm joining material from the right, I can have piled material on the left. So it's really convenient to have that positioned in the right sense. When I'm running this machine, I have storage for the material on the left side right here, and opposite for the router. If I'm running material through the router, I have storage to be able to just set some pieces on the joiner. My joiner is a 12-inch Grizzly spiral cutter head joiner, and this machine is kind of where it all starts in the lumber world. And I have storage in just every nook and cranny that you can think of, and I can always kind of come up and think of more storage areas everywhere. That on the left side, this is my router, and my router table with my router cabinet, where I have some router bits, and I have storage for all my router tools in here. This is all handmade by me, but I have a sliding doors underneath here. I have doors that open up here, and you know, a lot of these cabinets I'll build in different ways for not only functionality, but it's a good representation for when I have customers or clientele that come down into the shop and they want to see different styles of doors and drawers. I have a good representation for them to be able to look at. But this holsters, again, all my router bits and router accessories. And the drawers, again, you can't have enough storage. I'm slowly trying to acquire to be able to get this stuff all for router-based. Multiple cabinets in multiple places. Maybe not even having anything in it, but it's there for storage because it was a piece, you know, it was a negative, because it was a negative space in the shop here that I can get at and maybe store something that'll be really important in the future. So I went and built it. Going back from my middle island back down to the long bench. If you guys have seen me maybe in some posts, you've seen this chest of drawers right over here to the left. It's 184 drawers I built to holster all my hardware, and I know where nothing is in it. It always keeps me guessing. I haven't put a through Z yet and 1 through 8 on the top. I haven't made a grid yet, just because I do semi-know where most of my stuff is, but it keeps it fun guessing, and it keeps it always exciting. But honestly, I built this to hold all my hardware, screws, nuts, bolts, small stuff, and these drawers themselves are small enough for me to be able to bring in different places around the shop. I can take these out of the cabinet and set them on the bench while I'm using them, having different types of screws out, and they're small enough that they're not, you know, consuming a lot of real estate in the shop. And whatever project I'm working on that requires the, you know, box of screws that I need, I just take it out, and it's great because it's all neat. Then when I go to put everything away, it's all stored away in like a huge catalog of hardware. And I'm up to about here, and I have plenty of empty and more storage to go. You can't have enough storage, but this chest of drawers here was a long 2-month project in a long winter where I just had the time to be able to nail out this kind of stuff. I built it for myself because I don't like open exposed cubbies where dust gets in, so I like closed drawers. It keeps dust out. But I also like visual appearance and display in my shop, as you guys can see around here with my furniture. I like things to be aesthetically pleasing for customers and clients to come down, and they can then see the kind of craftsmen they're dealing with And it gives them also ideas for maybe their own personal project that they want built. Handmade little hand pulls, inlaid maple, brass screws, and they're also all dadoed. And if you don't know what dadoed means, it has all these notches around all my drawers, so it keeps everything very strong. You could literally fill this whole cabinet with lead. These are all individual cubbies. They're not sliders or runners on the side, which produces an extremely strong cabinet, but it's also an extremely hard cabinet to build because all of these dividers and drawers are all dadoed like a big, huge grid work. And I'm going to pop in some pictures here to show you guys of when I was constructing it. And this was years ago before YouTube. So but you know, some of the gratification now looking at this stuff years later is part of, you know, the enjoyment I get and why I make these pieces the way they are. I'm the one that has to stare at this stuff for the life of my shop and the life of me, so I want it to look nice. And just right around the corner from that is another handmade tool cabinet, and this cabinet here has all sorts of tooling for the milling machine, and it used to be next to the milling machine, but we moved it down here because it gives me a little more room around the milling machine, but it holds all tooling for that. Angle plates, gauge blocks, all sorts of tooling, vices that you would need for the milling machine. It keeps it all safely stored, and this is a handmade solid red oak, curly red oak, with oak panels and inlaid black walnut edges on the doors. It's a really nice touch for the cabinet. Doors are really thick and durable, and they're also slow stop doors. I have all removable hinges on my doors. I like good hardware on any sort of cabinetry I build. So I build the doors that they're quickly removable to be able to clean, and or maybe whatever, if you had to repair them, just simply clip back on when you are ready to put the door back in on the cabinet. Out of solid red oak, and it has been a great cabinet that stores all of our tooling for the milling machine. And I had to build this one extremely strong, again, because it's a lot of weight that is stored inside. And if you don't build this cabinet, if you don't build your cabinetry solid and strong, stuff has a tendency to sag and bow over time, and that's what will give you issues. And also different woods need to be built in different ways so that expansion and contraction can happen. And if anybody is familiar with red oak, even in the firewood world, they know how wet it is and how much of like a straw it is. So red oak needs to be built in a particular way that can be really, really moved. And seeing this is a solid cabinet, the sides are all solid, the faces are all solid, the doors are all solid. This needs to be constructed in a way that seasonal change can happen, even down in a, you know, climate controlled wood shop like this. For my woodworking videos, you'll see these cabinets lit in the background a lot, and I leave the long bench lights that you guys just seen on here. Here holster all my drill drivers, neatly stored away, dust free, and clear plexiglass doors. And they are pine cabinets with soft close hinges again, and I'll have them all lit, backlit for, again, the aesthetic pleasing factor, but it's also kind of like it's like a morning process. You know, you come down early in the shop, and it's really nice to be able to wake up and come down with not so intense light along the whole long bench here. I kind of set these on, and I will, you know, do what I have to do first to get started in the morning before I get the machines roaring. And it's kind of nice to have like almost like a morning night light in the sense of the tools all backlit. And also, obviously, the benefit of being able to display this stuff as well. All the solid pine, and I use clear plexiglass doors in case of me swinging a, you know, board around, I accidentally hit them. It wouldn't break the, you know, any sort of glass, so that's where it saves me on that. And it also kept the door very light in this particular instance, being a pine framed door. I also clear coat a lot of all my furniture down here because clear coat is an extremely hard finish. If you guys take a look in the cabinets here, once again, all this behind it is the pegboard that is in the back of the wall here with 2 inches of foam, and it gives me all that flexibility of changing the storage in the future. I built these panels that just clip in and out of the pegboard. I can change that holster, all the tools, and I have a few of them out right now, Dad. But they, holster all my different drill drivers, all my different tools. And it's, again, really convenient to be able to change that stuff in the future if I need to. Having the pegboard back there, it gives me that adjustability, because anything else you'd be screwing permanently into a wood wall or screwing it permanently into any sort of wall, and it makes it more inconvenient if you need to quick change something. So having it being able to quickly change never really makes you not want to be able to upgrade it or change it maybe in the future if you come up with a better idea. Or all my drill drivers to keep everything, dust free the best I can, because, working in a wood shop, it gets dusty. And then your tools are getting all messy. And it's also not as quick and convenient to grab it out of a bag or out of a bin, or even rifling through drawers to grab all your tools. It's nice to be able to just go to a cabinet, open up the door here, grab the tool that you need, and you get to work. Be able to just walk up to the cabinet, open up the door, grab the tool you need, and walk away and use it on the job that you need. And it's the same thing with being able to store things back. Everything has a place, and a place for everything. So it makes things really easy and quick to be able to pick up the shop when things get messy, which things do get messy. And if you're looking at it saying that it's clean right now, it does get messy.
Which things do get messy. And if you're looking at it saying that it's clean right now, it does get messy.
Cabinets typically have underneath them, I think, is really useless and negative space that can be used. So I built my cabinets having a little more depth underneath them, and I built storage to be able to, once again, hold miscellaneous small depth tools and measuring devices that you would normally not be able to store anywhere else. Underneath my cabinets, it gives me all this storage, which is really convenient, again, for measuring devices, stuff that's really shallow in thickness. These kind of drop-down trays, they don't get in my way working on the bench here in any sort, but if they do, they're just really quick to just pop up out of the way and lock up out of the way. And I've built them so that they're just hinged on the back, and they have chains on the front, and they just clip right up out of your way. Or come back down. Right above my little mini cabinet. It steps down in the cabinetry because above it is my sound system. And if I didn't get copyrighted, I'd blast you guys some ZZ Top or something nice that you guys would enjoy. But I have 8 speakers down in the shop that gives me all my sound. I have 4 subwoofers, all on their own custom built shelf. So I wish the lumber wasn't here in the way, but this is my charging station. And if anybody knows how inconvenient it is to plug something in and out, and also how much of a mess it is to have a bunch of cords laying around on top of your bench when you have a few drill drivers with chargers, it turns into just this rat's nest. So I built a custom cabinet to be able to holster all of my chargers in a cabinet in itself, to be able to keep the dust minimal, with all on independent switches, so that the charger above it is in correlation with the switch where I want to just plug something in. Down into my battery cabinet here, set up really conveniently, so you can come over here and you guys got to plug in your battery and turn on the charger right below it. It's that simple, and it starts charging, rather than rifling around, plugging a cord in and out, having 50 million different cords on top of your bench, and you're rifling around with things. And then you can just shut the door and it's safe. And these are smart chargers, so they typically, they'll stop charging when, the batteries reach full charge. But I keep an eye on it with a little indicator light. If I forget for the night when I'm leaving for the shop, I can see the little indicator light still on and know that I left a charger on, and I can come over here and safely turn everything off. And that's the same thing with my cabinet lights down there. I have them on separate switches because that's my father. He's a professional electrician. He believes in nothing being able to be plugged in and out, and everything on a separate switch, and everything professional. So being able to, shut your lights off with a flick of a switch is really convenient, or turn them back on is really nice in the morning when you're just waking up. Carrying on from the cabinet wall, you guys come over into this middle section, And if you take real close note, you'll notice a project that's going on in the background that you guys are going to see in probably my next video. But you come to this middle section and you see a tremendous amount of lights all in line. And you also see, again, a tremendous amount of switches all in line. And I do a lot of assembly and or finishing in the center section when I clean the shop up. So I have this strategically set up more for so when I'm assembling to be able to have a different staging, an area with an extreme amount of light so that I can see when I'm maybe building it or assembling it, where, you know, I'm not trying to shine a light on something physically. It's really nice to be able to have this also. They are designed all on a separate switch of themselves to be able to individually turn them off if you want. And then to be able to come over here and turn everything that you've turned on and or off on one main bank switch, which if you're an electrician, you will know that that is professional work. And if you're not an electrician, you should know that that's not something that's easy to do. So this gives me the ability to be able to change the light pattern in my shop. If I'm trying to finish something very specifically, a tabletop, I can cast the light in the right spots with turning on a certain amount of lights in a certain pattern. Maybe I want every other light on, or maybe I want all the lights on when I'm assembling, and that gives me that fluctuation for that. So again, thanks, Dad, for all your electrician skills. It's really convenient having that all set up like that, where I can cast light or have an intense amount of light in this middle area when I am doing my assembly. And this is my MFT table, my multi-function table from Festool. Again, I have some tools on wheels that I can't always store on my bench, like my scroll saw, my sander. I can quickly reel them out, use them in certain applications, setting them up on my bench. And it's just, you know, sometimes you can't have all your bench taken up with stuff, so it's nice to be able to store stuff underneath and have it roll in and out with ease so that you can still free up the shop and have all this room when you're trying to, you know, work on maybe a bigger project at task. Again, there's the pegboard, guys, wrapping around the whole end of the shop. It's been super, super nice to be able to store all tiny items, such as small and or big, on this pegboard that gives me just literal infinite adjustability. Down on the north end of the shop here, I can show you guys more of the advantage of having the lower ceilings. It's almost at the perfect height where it gives me that ability to be able to take clamps and store them up into the rafters here. They're up out of the way of my head. They're up out of the way of even swinging things around, but they're also low enough for me able to quickly grab. And it gives me all this infinite storage up here for clamps. And honestly, I just don't even have enough clamps if you're even looking and thinking that, wow, he's got too many clamps. You can't have enough clamps. So there's things all over low enough that it's easy to quick grab, such as, you know, these cauls when I'm gluing stuff up. It's easy to grab them. I have lengths marked. They're in the perfect grab reach, whereas if the ceilings were higher, you really wouldn't utilize all that higher space without using it on a ladder, but it works out great for me being able to store stuff that just I can't store anywhere else. Onto another cabinet that I made who holsters a lot of my finishes and small measuring devices, glue, and I have drawers in here for more storage. This whole thing is on wheels. I've moved it in multiple spots in the shop before, but I really like it for my finishes, and I also have it built with peg holes and adjustable shelves so that I could change it for anything that I want maybe in the future. But for now, it works great holstering a lot of my finishes, and I have very low vapor finishes, so I don't really, you know, need a steel cabinet for the safety in that sense. I do a lot of clear coats, water-based clear coats, so very, very low wipe-ons. I don't do many of them, so, you know, nobody, you know, don't panic too bad. So that's what's always benefited me with being able to use this cabinet for, you know, some finishes like that. And I have a double door here that closes. Nice custom made handles, and these steel handles here just for it being a little more shop grade and constructive. I like to use different handles in different places for maybe some different samples, but this here holds my lathe tools, And, you know, someday I'll have this stuff maybe a little more organized in the sense of having the lathe tools down by the wood lathe, but for now, them drawers have worked for that. I have them flat up against the wall to be able to just, you know, when I'm walking through this in and out of my way for the clamps, but also I have the clamps tucked up nice and tight up against the wall so that this isn't sticking out, and I can still kind of get through here. Obviously, I'm not going to take a 4x8 sheet of plywood and start, you know, spinning it around on my finger, but I have enough room to be able to manage myself through here, and you'd be surprised over the years of when you're working in your shop how actually you've trained yourself. I can come through here with ease back and forth, and it's just another route for when you're working around, coming around on the right side of the table saw, coming around on the left side of the table saw. It seems to work very convenient for me, and that's why these clamps are stored that way. Almost like the centerpiece of the shop, almost like an assembly table and or, you know, workstation, because it's centered in the shop like that and it's such a big platform. I have my oscillating spindle sander over in the corner there, but the table saw is such a large work surface and flat work surface that it gives me almost like an assembly table in that sense. So it's worked out pretty decently, but that table saw has been extremely nice. So but, you know, just taking a pan around the shop here, again, it's been a work of progress over many years. And me and my father have, you know, spent many hours designing it together, and it's really good. And it's been really fun doing it all. And it's even more fun coming down and, you know, creating custom furniture like I've done. I think it's been a hidden talent where I have not shared with YouTube enough to display that, you know, that Wood Guy does a lot more than just firewood. So I think it's time to be able to share with you guys this whole other aspect of my life. You guys are wondering what this stack of cake is. These are actually for shaker boxes. They're shaker box forms, and for when I'm wrapping my bands around, they give me a tight surface to be able to wrap and hold the band around. That's what this stack of cake thing is that you guys are probably wondering in the background. They are shaker box forms. And when I do shaker boxes, you guys will see in a video here, I have all my drying forms. I also have all my finger templates to be able to cut out all the fingers. This stuff took a lot of time to be able to make and get that all squared away so that when I come down and make shaker boxes, it's all there for me. The outfeed of my table saw, I have drawer storage. I have air filtration, which circulates the air in this actual shop about 20 times per minute, which is hard to believe, but these air filters are really high capacity, so you can't have enough air filtration, you can't have enough dust collection. So you come over here to my planer, my 20-inch spiral cutter head planer, workhorse of the shop. Again, you see me do a lot of work with this machine. I love this planer a lot, and it served me very well. It's hooked up to our dust collection, 6-inch schedule 40, and this thing just makes short work of milling down material. I have it staged with my little drum sander on top because I don't have the space to be able to conveniently store this in a specific spot on wheels. So it works out being on top of the planer. It's kind of like a negative space above here. And I use this consistent enough where I need it set up almost like in a permanent setting. So I've stored it on top of my planer for that reason. So the shop's been a work in progress over many years, and I'm happy to be able to share it with you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the shop tour. Me and my dad have worked on this for, it's got to be going on 17, 18 years now, as long as I've been doing woodworking, and it has certainly changed over them years. But, you know, it started out with a little $50 chase picking bandsaw that my parents got me for Christmas one year, and this dark, damp basement here that was just full of storage is now, you know, my beautiful wood shop, and it's just, you know, it all started from that little tiny bandsaw. So, you know, any of you who are, you know, new coming into woodworking and maybe want to get into woodworking, I hope this inspires you to get into woodworking, and you can do anything you guys want. And you guys who have been here all this time supporting me, thank you guys so much for all your support. I love you guys so much. I hope you guys enjoyed the shop tour, and we'll do a little more panoramas around here. You guys can get a little more eye candy in, but again, you know, I probably missed a few things here and there. I'm hoping I got what I did. I hope you guys asked questions. I showed you guys enough. But, you know, by all means, make sure you guys, you know, make sure you guys subscribe. I really appreciate your guys' support, and I got so much to share with you guys. So many projects coming out of here that are custom that I think you guys are going to really enjoy.